tactical option that has the greatest possibility to improve the lives of the people of South Africa. We did not arrive at this decision of forming a government of national unity easily. It is a decision that we took fully aware of the risks and opportunities inherent in this option. We firmly believe this was the best way to form a government that is stable, effective, and that is able to advance the interests of the people of South Africa as a whole. We have entered into this GNU with 9 other parties, some of whom are fundamentally opposed to our perspective on transformation of our economy and society. But that is the nature of governments of national unity all over the world and across different historical periods, as well as geographic areas. They bring together parties from across the political spectrum. For example, at moments when a nation faces national conflict or deep socio-economic challenges that can only be resolved through cooperation. A government of national unity is different from a typical coalition, nor is it a forum of allied or like-minded parties. The first fundamental decision we took was to accept the outcome of the elections with great humility on our part. We accepted that the people of South Africa made it clear that they are impatient with political bickering and endless blame game among politicians and political parties. The people of South Africa want us to put their needs, their interests and aspirations first, and they want us to work together for the sake of our country. We have heard our people, and we will work with our alliance partners and every sector that is willing to contribute to solutions to the challenges our country faces as we transition to a new decade of freedom. And so, even as we undertake our work under substantially changed conditions, we remain firmly committed to the advance of the national democratic revolution and the achievement of a united, non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic and prosperous South Africa. These changed conditions require that we strengthen our resolve and pursue our historic mission with even greater clarity, purpose, and vigor. Rather than see the decline in our electoral support as a defeat, we see it as a call to action. This is not the time to be bitter. It is not also the time to feel defeated. It is the time to be better and to do better. The people of South Africa have said not only that we must do more, but that we must do better, but also that in many respects we must change our ways. The task of this Lekgotla, which are often called the brains trust of our country, because gathered here are leaders from various formations that are interested in the progress of this country. So the task of this Lekgotla is therefore to set out the work that we need to do at this moment, in these circumstances, to build a strong, growing, and inclusive economy that protects and advances workers' rights and offers endless opportunities and livelihoods to the people of our country as a whole. We must spend the next 3 days planning how we will achieve the task of democratic renewal and socio-economic transformation so that no one is left behind as our country enters the 4th decade of freedom. During the course of the election campaign, South Africans were unequivocal in expressing their disappointments and disapproval of our performance in some areas in which we have failed them. Communities told us of instances where our work in government and the achievement of our policy objectives have suffered because of the problems in our own organization. The ANC and our alliance partners agree that the national fault lines of unemployment, inequality, and poverty have persisted despite progress that has been made over the past 30 years in our country. These fault lines have been exacerbated by crises such as the effect of state capture, a once-in-a-century pandemic, the shock caused by the July 2021 unrest, load shedding, and a rising cost of living. These all contributed to widespread loss of confidence in our movement's ability to address our people's concerns. The ANC and the Alliance therefore agree that at this Lekgotla, we must first and foremost focus on the economy and the important issue of economic transformation. As one leader from another country once said, it is the economy, stupid. And indeed, it is the economy. Our people want a transformed, growing, and inclusive economy that creates jobs for millions of job seekers, and that offers business opportunities to our entrepreneurs in our nation, women, men, young and old, urban and rural. Women, as in the past, have once again shown during these past elections that they remain the torchbearers of our democracy. Women are 55% of registered voters. Yes, we should applaud to that. Just to repeat, they remain the torchbearers, the light bearers of our democracy. They are 55% of registered voters and registered a turnout of 62%, well above the national average. Now, they do this because women are community builders, playing a vital role in all sectors of society, even when their contributions are not always recognized or appreciated. Indeed, women bear the brunt of poverty and violence in our society as well. As we craft our contributions towards the program of the 7th administration, we must ensure that we make decisive progress towards the empowerment of women and also to truly have a non-sexist South Africa. Together as the Alliance, we must confront the fact that our economy has barely grown over the last 14 years. Between 2010 and 2024, the average annual GDP growth rate was 1.2%. 2% a year. Now, this is anemic growth. This was lower than the rate of population growth over that period. What this means is that per capita GDP has been declining over the last decade and a half. That is why we say that inclusive growth must be our apex priority. This is necessary to create employment, to reduce poverty, and to reduce inequality as well. As alliance partners, we are determined that growth must be inclusive. It must be transformational as well. Inclusive growth must drive the redistribution of wealth and opportunity in our country. It must support the empowerment of Black South Africans and women and all those who in the past had been relegated to the fringes of the economy of our country. We must continue to protect and uphold hard-won rights of workers and continually strive to improve the conditions in which they work and they live. Inclusive growth demands that we affirm the position of women and youth in the economy and enable the full participation of people with disabilities and other vulnerable groups in our economy. We have demonstrated the value of public and social employment in creating immediate work and livelihood opportunities. Over the next 3 days, we must plan to ensure that these programs are massified and become more effective. We're going to have to come up with innovative ideas of how our job creation processes and initiatives can be massified, as we cannot continue having so many South Africans unemployed. Much work has been done in creating conditions for greater investment in infrastructure, improving mechanisms for planning, financing, and implementation. Over the past 5 years, a lot of work has been done in putting in place capabilities to enable us to be more investment friendly and be able to attract investment so as to push ahead, particularly with investment in infrastructure. But we need to massively increase the scale of investment, particularly in a number of sectors of our economy, and particularly in the new sectors of our economy, the green economy, the hydrogen economy, in agriculture, yes, in mining. Those are areas that are becoming frontiers of growth, the digital economy as well. We need to pay greater attention to infrastructure maintenance. We have worked with stakeholders, including business and organized labor, to develop master plans in important sectors of the economy, focusing on the actions needed to enhance growth in the respective industries, increased investment, creation of jobs, and faster transformation. At this Lekgotla, we need to assess the efficacy of the master plans that we have now put in place and the contribution that they are making to industrialization as well as to local production. We need to focus on our industrial policy to enhance economic growth, and we need to add value to our minerals through beneficiation to generate economic growth. We must be more targeted in the support that we provide to emerging businesses, ranging from black industrialists to small, medium enterprises and cooperatives, We need to look at the impact of this type of support that we have on offer and ensure that it reaches businesses in townships and rural areas. It was during the election campaign, as we crisscrossed the length and the breadth of our country, where we realized that there is a lacuna and a deep gap in the funding of businesses where our people live, the support of businesses in the rural areas, in the urban areas. This is what this Lekgotla also needs to focus attention on. Through the Energy Action Plan, the ANC-led government has reduced the severity of load shedding and talking about the national health insurance, I now feel hot. Now, as part of this work of implementing the national health insurance, the government must strengthen healthcare infrastructure. We must improve the training of healthcare personnel and use technology to improve healthcare management. As the Alliance, we must support and advance the professionalization of the public service, ensuring that we attract into the state people with skills, capabilities, and integrity. We now have a very good and interesting development of how many young people are now coming forward, wanting to serve their country as public servants. The decision that we have taken that prior experience in work should no longer be a barrier to the entry of young people in employment is beginning to attract many young people to come forward to want to work for the state. We therefore need to professionalize the public service. We must continue with the work to reduce the potential for corruption and prevent undue political interference in the administration of the state. We must modernize the state, learning from global best practice and undertaking the digital transformation of public services. And in this regard, we often find that we are way behind where our people are. Many of our people are tech-savvy, and the state is lagging behind. Government must complete the work to restore the financial position and operational performance of our state-owned enterprises. This includes completing the implementation of a new centralized ownership model for SOEs. This will improve accountability, transparency, governance, and oversight, while reducing the potential for corruption and inefficiency. And it will also reduce the silo mentality of how some of these state-owned enterprises function. We must function as an integrated government in all respects. At the same time, we must ensure that key state-owned enterprises account on policy performance to their aligned departments as decided by the ANC National Conference. Our alliance partners and the broader public have noted on several occasions the devastating impact of state capture on our law enforcement agencies and security services. There is much work to be done to strengthen the other parts of the criminal justice system, from the police and the Hawks and to the NPA, the courts and correctional services as well. An area that requires particular attention is local government. Municipalities, which are most critical for the delivery of infrastructure and basic services to our people, are failing. Together with our alliance partners, we are agreed that municipalities are most critical for creating the conditions in which businesses can grow and create jobs, and are therefore essential for the achievement of inclusive growth. In our manifesto, election manifesto that is, we said that national and provincial government would use the levers provided in the Constitution and in law to strengthen municipalities and to intervene where they are failing. we have seen the impact of the failure of local government in the election results. We know that many people withheld their votes because of their disappointment and dissatisfaction with the provision of services and the state of infrastructure at the local level where they live. Our analysis of the election results show that the ANC experienced the greatest decline in its share of votes in the metros. The instability, dysfunction, and poor performance of metros like Johannesburg, Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, eThekwini, and Buffalo City are clearly reflected in the election results. We therefore need decisive interventions in these metros. This is necessary not simply for the ANC's electoral prospects, but for the sake of engendering inclusive growth, ensuring that there is job creation, and that there is poverty reduction. These metros are where millions of our people live, where most economic activity actually takes place. The NEC made an assessment in all hung municipalities, and has decided to intervene to work with a range of parties to stabilize municipalities across the country. During this month, the National Task Team on Coalitions will be engaging, starting in Johannesburg, and it will also help to restore and rebuild and renew various structures so that we are able to better serve our people. In its analysis of the election results, the NEC recognized that much of the decline in our electoral support can also be attributed to the weaknesses in our own movement. The people of South Africa can see and have punished us for the erosion of our values and our principles, the deterioration of our organizational capacity, the prevalence of corruption, patronage, division, as well as factionalism. Following the 54th National Conference in December of 2017, we embarked on a process of renewal and rebuilding. 7 years later, despite some setbacks and a measure of resistance, we can point to important progress that we have been making on the road to renewal. But it is not enough either to meet our own objectives or expectations of the people. Therefore, one of the central tasks of the movement now is to take decisive action to rid our movement of practices that undermine our ability to build a united, non-racial, democratic, non-sexist, and prosperous society. Now, as directed by the 2024 January 8th statement, we must build and strengthen the capacity of the ANC to lead meaningful social and economic transformation so that the people, and in particular workers and the unemployed, can benefit. We must strengthen the quality and the caliber of our membership, our cadership, but also more importantly, our leadership. We need to strengthen our leagues to fulfill their crucial roles within the movement and broadly in society. We must be principled and consistent about instilling discipline and respect for organizational processes and principles. The recurring theme during the NEC of the past 3 days was that we must be much more rigorous and earnest about accountability and consequence management for acts of indiscipline and those who transgress the rules of our movement. Leaders and public representatives must be held accountable through organizational processes. And we have resolved that this is precisely what we are going to upgrade, to take to a higher gear, because it is in this area where there is a lack of accountability and lack of consequence management that contributes to the decline of our movement and to the standing of our movement in the eyes of the public. Renewal must be our mission, our preoccupation, and our driving force. Renewal is about reclaiming, rebuilding, and restoring the standing and the image of this glorious movement. Reclaiming our position in society and rebuilding our structures from the ground up and restoring the trust of our people must be what preoccupies all our actions. We need to strengthen the progressive forces in society and mobilize them. As we reflect on the work we must do to rebuild our movement, we need to work to strengthen the progressive forces, yes, in society, our unions, our various non-governmental organizations. Central to this is the alliance, which remains the only progressive force of the left that has organizational capability and mass support to lead the fundamental transformation of our society. We need to be actively involved in the lives of our communities from branch level. We need to organize amongst workers, women, youth, professionals, traditional leaders, cultural workers, religious communities, and others. The unity of the alliance and the mass democratic movement is therefore key. We need to build a powerful progressive movement that will provide leadership in addressing the needs of our people. When the idea of a national dialogue was floated by President Thabo Mbeki, I immediately supported the proposal to convene a national dialogue, which I believe has the potential to galvanize South Africans across all strata and formations behind a national program of growth, development, and transformation. In our NEC meeting yesterday, we agreed that the convening of this national dialogue is an important and urgent priority. The modalities of undertaking this task are receiving urgent attention, as we will all need to work together to ensure that the national dialogue does indeed lead to a comprehensive national social compact that we need to reach with various structures in our society to take our country forward. One of the areas that requires specific attention is the organization of young people. The election results have demonstrated in stark terms that young people are disengaged from electoral processes. We need to better understand the concerns and attitudes of young South Africans and the forms of social, political, cultural, and other activities in which they engage. We need a new mindset. We can no longer expect young people to come to us. We must be the ones who go to them. But we must go to young people with credible initiatives that are going to engage them in building the South Africa that we want. Building a better Africa and a better world is our task. The NEC reaffirmed our historic and ongoing support for the inalienable right of self-determination of the people of Western Sahara. And we reaffirm our support for the struggle for self-determination for the people of Palestine. We condemn and have taken action at the International Court of Justice against Israel's genocide against the people of Gaza. We reaffirm our principled stance to the resolution of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and will continue to work towards ending that conflict through dialogue and negotiations. We continue to be engaged in silencing the guns on our continent through our engagement in the various conflicts that are taking place on our continent. South Africa will host the annual G20 summit in 2024. Some people say that this G20 summit, when many heads of states will descend on our country, could be at the same level as the 2010 FIFA football contest that took place here, or even bigger. We therefore need to embark on a national project of ensuring that the G20 does become successful. This is an important platform to advance the interests of our continent, Africa, and other countries of the global south, and to mobilize support for a more just and equal world order. The African Continental Free Trade Area offers our country a great opportunity to benefit from inter-regional trade within our continent. It becomes a golden opportunity for our business people, our exporters, to see the entire continent as their market of 1.3 billion people. We will continue to pursue a foreign policy that is based on our country's national interests, economic objectives, and in the furtherance of human rights, fundamental freedoms for all. In conclusion, we do find ourselves in one of the most grave and challenging moments in the 112 years of our movement's existence. We have suffered a great setback, yet we are neither daunted nor defeated. As a movement, we have in the past weathered many a storm. We have walked through many a fire. Storms, like fires, soon pass. Failure is not final. Setbacks are not defeats. We must never wallow in our setbacks. We must learn from these setbacks, and must regroup, and we must adapt accordingly and move on. Although we face a difficult road ahead, we are resolute, and we are a resolute bunch of people, we, the Congress people. We therefore must, as we have done before, critically examine our strategies, our tactics, our programs and practices. And this Lekgotla gives us the opportunity to do just that. We must analyze the domestic and international environment, the balance of forces, and the macroeconomic trends that are shaping our world. As we focus more of our discussions in the commissions we are going to have on the economy and on engendering inclusive growth. And we must agree on the actions we must take to restore our movement and pursue the national democratic revolution with greater vigor. We must be prepared to take difficult decisions and to follow through on the decisions that we will have taken. Now, these elections have focused our attention on state power, on how to retain it, on how to use it to advance the interests of our people. Over the next 3 days, we will have to grapple with difficult and complex matters. We will have to deploy our collective intellect, our collective insights and political understanding on how we deal with all these complexities that are given rise to by the situation we find ourselves in and the conditions in which our people live. As we do so, let us remember that what is required of us above all is honesty, hard work, humility, ethics, and respect for the people of South Africa. This is what should define us as a Lekgotla gathered here, the brains trust of our country. Thank you very much.